Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Omondi, and I'm the Director and CEO of the Wildlife Research and Training Institute. I was supposed to be here at the opening yesterday with the Director General of Kenya Wildlife Service, but we had some urgent assignments in Amboseli to try and address the current impacts of droughts on wildlife with the Vice President, the Deputy President of Kenya. So I hope you are enjoying Kenyan's hospitality, and welcome all to Naivasha, where the Wildlife Research and Training Institute is also headquartered. Now, I will try and stick to the few minutes I've been given to just try and bring the wildlife conservation in Kenya into context. And I will talk about our protected area network, how the players in management of Kenyans biodiversity, sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between wildlife and biodiversity. And then talk about Wildlife Research and Training Institute, what our mandate is and why this institute has been established, because there's a link between that and this very important conference. I'll share about our strategic focus, our goal, and how we've been collecting data when we started real conservation under the Kenya Wildlife Service in 1989, and how that have evolved over time. Then the challenges and the opportunities that I feel exist, particularly with the players in this conference, because I see opportunities that can make us work together. So the country Kenya. The country Kenya is about 600,000 square kilometers. I think it's 586,246, thereabout. You can Google that. And we are about 54.99 million Kenyans occupying that landmass. 600,000, about 55 million Kenyans. And in there we have people, and you can see the conservation network there, what we call protected areas are 22 terrestrial parks. We have 4 marine national parks, marine national reserves. We have 4 national sanctuaries. We have over 160 community conservancies. And all this constitute about 20% of that landmass, the conservation network. And a few facts about our protected area. They are open systems. They are not closed. They are not fenced, except for the rhino sanctuaries. All our protected area are open systems. The rhino sanctuaries, we have 17 of them in the country, and all of them are fenced to protect the rhinos, because of the demand for rhino horn is still there, and we have to put 24/7 surveillance to ensure that they are protected. So if you see that map, the green portions are what we call national parks. They are scattered across the country, with Tsavo National Park being, Tsavo ecosystem being the largest network. of protected areas like Kurga of South Africa. Tsavo ecosystem is the largest of all, and it also hosts the largest population of elephants in the country. We have 8% protected as national parks and reserves, and in national parks is preservation. We don't have livestock, although encroachment is a challenge because they are open systems. Then we have county reserves, and then we have community conservancies, and then private sanctuaries. And most private sanctuaries actually are rhino sanctuaries. So if you are a rhino sanctuary, it means it is fenced. And they all constitute that 20%. So I think you understand that landscape. 20% of 600,000 open systems, 55 million people living in the landscape. So you can still feel that challenge and why it is also important to monitor and know where these animals roam because the systems are open. So how do we govern wildlife management in Kenya? We have the central government. Currently, we are housed under the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. That's like the parent ministry to give policy laws to guide the conduct of wildlife conservation and management in the country. And then we have a management authority. You know, the wildlife in Kenya is owned by the people of Kenya. But they delegate the authority to Kenya Wildlife Service to manage and on behalf of the people of Kenya, all wildlife, wherever they are, whether in private land, the oversight, whether in national reserves, whether in national parks, whether in community conservancies, the Kenya Wildlife Service oversights management and law enforcement. And beginning last year, they set up the Wildlife Research and Training Institute as a second parastatal in the sector to oversight and coordinate the conduct of research in the country so that it can inform policy and decision. So we have Kenya Wildlife Service for management and enforcement, and we have Wildlife Research and Training Institute for research and monitoring. And then the fourth nexus is the Kenya Wildlife Conservance Association. This brings out communities that now practice wildlife as a land use. You know, it's not formally protected, it's not a park, but instead of doing agriculture, they practice wildlife conservation as a land use. So they can have ecologists through private community partnership and generate revenue. They can charge fee to go to these conservancies and then trade off doing agriculture. It means our model of livelihoods to community is based on community conservancies. And I said we have about over 160 of them, occupying about 11,000 square kilometers. And that is good space for wildlife. The third arrangement is we brought in all the players, the Kenya Conservancy, all the NGOs and non-state actors under the umbrella Conservation Alliance of Kenya. All NGOs fall under there. And that is just to get a governance in order. You know, when you want to deal with over 28 NGOs, all doing different things, you need some umbrella body. They are registered as an umbrella body with their CEO and boards, so that the engagement can be structured. And that is how we engage the non-state actors. And then we have the international development partners, because conservation is expensive, and we engage broadly with them to support our conservation program. So the Wildlife Research and Training Institute. And I think I want to stress this because most of the teams here are involved in data collection through technology. So this institute hitherto was a function that was being performed by Kenya Wildlife Service. And through an act of parliament, an independent institution was established under Section 50 of the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act of 2013. And the mandate is to coordinate and undertake wildlife research. This act is online. You can Google it. And in Section 51, 52, you'll get all the functions that the Wildlife Research and Training Institute is been given by law. And this function include bringing players together so that information can be gathered, pulled together into a central database. Now, Section 61 of that act want us to develop a national wildlife database in partnership with the Kenya Wildlife Service and other players in the sector. And the reason is that Kenya is one of those countries that is well endowed with scientists, ecologists, and long-term research. We have some research that have gone over 50 years. Amboseli elephant research, baboon, we have a baboon project here. We have Save the Elephant, and all of them are collecting data, analyzing data. This is available with them, but the government now wants the institute to pull all these players together and bring this into a database. If you talk about elephant numbers, not everybody will talk about numbers. The numbers now, together with the players, will say Kenya has 36,280, and that compilation is done by the Wildlife Institute, and they coordinate with the players so that when we release it, it's final. That is the government voice. For example, when we release the status of impact of drought on population, the cabinet secretary released, we compiled that. I think some of the players shared their data, we looked at it, and when it is in public now, that's official Kenyan data. Anybody can have the data, but the official is released now from the Wildlife Research and Training Institute on behalf of the government. So again, the other functions entail granting wildlife research permits is given to us. And we are not a regulator of research because we also coordinate, we also undertake research. And we just bring players together. But the regulator of research is the National Council, NACOSTI, they call it National Council for Science, Innovation, Technology. But in the wildlife sector, we do the clearance. We are like a clearing house so that the license can be issued by NACOSTI. We also Scientific Authority for Kenya, for CITES, and all other wildlife-related mayors, and carrying out research in bioprospecting. So why was this important to get this out of the service and become an independent government parastatal? We realized that data was available in a lot of it, but they were all scattered. So when infrastructure development want to happen, people did not know where to go. You know, the person who does the roads, it'll come to KWS, then we start calling our players, please bring this. So the government said, let's have one central to bring players together. And I think that links to here, and we start thinking around, how do we have an EarthRanger for science so that information can be brought together to guide management and policy decision, because you can only manage better what you know. We do a lot of monitoring, we do a lot of tracking, we do censuses, but if it's all scattered everywhere, not produced into policy briefs, then it doesn't help anybody. So we need to bring all this together so that we can inform decision and policy. Of course, real-time data is good for management to address human-wildlife conflict and the security response. But now the science bit is to look at the trend. How was it the entire year? How was it compared to last year? And together with the various players, we can look at this data and see, are there connectivity areas that the government can conserve? Can we prepare that so that we can secure these connectivities? Because if we sit with it, we talk about connectivity, we don't prepare policy brief, then we'll not secure this connectivity, and we'll be mapping them to extinction. So it's important to try and make use of data we collect, so that if we know there is a corridor, and I was talking with the colleagues here, when we collared elephants in Uganda and Kenya, in West Pokot, we discovered the connectivity that we never knew exists. And there's a transboundary movement between Kenya, Uganda, all through to South Sudan. So how do we now secure that corridor? Because they are moving somewhere. I think that is the question that we need to deal with. So for the Research Institute, as I said, we have been structured into four. We are headquartered here in Naivasha. I hope some of you will visit us tomorrow if you are still around. And we have 4 centers. We have a center that just deals with terrestrial, based in Savo. Another center dealing with marine issues, based in Malindi. Then the focus on mountain and forest, based in Muiga, Nyeri County. And then another center that deals with wetlands and inland water, that is based here in Naivasha. We have a vision and a mission, and the key strategic pillar is coordination. Just bringing information together. That is our main pillar, so that this information can be easy to archive, easy to share, to guide management and to guide policy. So one strategic pillar is coordination. Then innovation. I think that's where I will need to call on players. We've been tracking, we've been evolving in technology and tracking. The institute is now available, and one of our strategic pillars is to innovate. We have an infrastructure, land infrastructure available. We can build innovation together and test this and help in tracking, working together with players here. And this is a discussion that I want us to discuss. Then partnership. That's the third one and key. And the ultimate aim of this strategic pillar is to ensure that our sustainable natural resource ecosystem for prosperity. That's the impact, that if we do all this, we coordinate research, we do innovation, and we build strong partnership which are strategic, will lead to sustainable management of our wildlife resources. Then we have a clear goal. This is in our 5-year strategic plan, and we have 34 initiatives, 68 activities. This strategic plan is available online, and you can access it and see these initiatives and where we can build a partnership. Now, when it comes to data, I think Kenya is one of those that believe data is key. If you want to manage better, then you need to know what you are managing. So we have invested in aerial counts, total aerial counts, sample counts over the years. And when we say we have this number of elephants, particularly for the endangered rhino, it is numbers that speaks to itself. So we do total aerial count, particularly focused on big, large mammals, and aerial sample. I think Dr. Mukeka from the Institute talked to this in another group yesterday. And we do camera traps in other ecosystem, tracking biodiversity inventories. And for lions and large carnivores, we actually use specially explicit capture-recapture method, the first one that established the status of lions in Kenya. So we invest in knowing what we manage. So when we speak on the impact, when poaching goes up and we say we read a red alarm, is because we keep data. That is the significance of investing in monitoring and census. It's huge, it's expensive, and for the first time last year we attempted to do a national wildlife census, just like you count people, to cover the entire country. The government invested to undertake all species, all ecosystems, and that was a big plus to us, because at least we have some baseline of what we are managing, and hopefully come 2024, and with this hit of drought, we have requested to undertake another census in 2024. The census we did in last year covered 380 square kilometer. And that represented 59% of Kenyan's landmass. 59%, it covers 59 of it. And we focused on wildlife larger than the Grand Gazelle. We used aerial sensors. And we recorded also human presence, livestock, illegal activities. And for example, the figure for elephant stood at 36 to 80, up from 16,000 in 1989. We have more than doubled our elephant numbers. And we estimate that our elephant population have been growing at 2% per year. And these elephants are not closed in fences. As they build, their numbers grow from 16,000. It has come with another challenge of human-elephant conflict, being now one of the top one, because we have invested a lot in law enforcement. Anti-poaching is still there because some people still have appetite for ivory, but not as bad as it was 2011, 2012. The main thing here today is human-elephant conflict. So what are the main challenges? Main challenge is climate change impacts, increasing human and livestock population, then bushmeat, and loss of connectivity. You know, that because these systems are open, the land use policy, I think policy and legislation is a key, not just for wildlife, but how you manage the land. We are losing buffers, dispersal areas, corridors, and we need a strict policy implementation. You have a land use, land zonation plans, but enforcing it so that corridors can be made and secured. And when we track and see these elephants moving between people, they must be moving in a space. How do we square that space? It's a one major challenge. For the Institute, I said we are 1 year, 4 months old, and we really require partnership. I want people to reach out to me after this, how we can work together to build this information infrastructure, how we can be able to share data, how we can prepare a policy brief, bring all this information together so that we are able to help in securing corridors and land and see how we can reduce human wildlife conflict. In terms of opportunity, as an institute, we have a natural laboratory in Naivasha here. We occupy 1,550 hectares of land, and we have a natural laboratory to experiment things. We can build innovation labs and basically test many things. So if you are keen in working with us, we have the natural laboratory, and we can work together to test hypotheses that can guide in the management of our natural capital. We have an opportunity now, because we are reviewing the Wildlife Act 2013, to try and accommodate all the challenges that I've mentioned. And if there is something that you feel should go into that review, it's at the tail end. And you have some thought process that if we have some enabling legislation, then this is the time to provide that info, and we'll be able to share with the relevant office so that it is accommodated. We also have a supporting government. Our current president is also an ecologist. He did his PhD in Saiwa Swamp, a master's in Nairobi Park. So he understands, and I think we have an opportunity now to provide this information we have, collect it, so that we can share and he'll easily understand what we are talking about. And that's why I'm saying, let's get this information into order so that it will be able to guide some policy direction moving forward. We are open, and because it's provided by law, to partner and get support. And we are also open because the law wants us to innovate. We can try many things. You know, we can try thermal images, you know, remote sensing. We can try and get the best scholars, because the law allows us to do that. You know, use drones as science, because we are required to test. So we have that opportunity, and we can partner and ride with us to try it, because we are required by law to do this. And then we have as a staff capacity, I think we have about 135 scientists, ecologists, all with various skills, and I think we are available to partner. So what do I require from this team? And I think the players here. I know I've talked to some of you on this already. I need to develop this national wildlife data portal. You know, and I need capacity to develop the hardware, software, for the good of decision making. You know, and address the challenges that I've just spoken to. So it's good normally to come to a conference and say, yes, I was there. And from there, we develop the national portal for Kenya in the wildlife sector. That's my big ask. I'll need partnership to start planning for the 2024 census. I know there's been evolution, you know, on what is cost effective. You know, there are trials that are happening. How can we design it? We can start right now to start planning for the 2024 census so that we get it right. How do we stratify the 20% of Kenyan landmass to get it right, so that by the time we get to 2024, we are ready, the methodologies is set in marine area, terrestrial area, and in forests. Some might even need to start earlier, because when you are doing indirect census in forest, you start down decay even 3 months earlier, studies. Then we also need to carry out a national carnivore census, a repeat census also, next year through to 2024. I discovered, unlike elephants, where we have a national, continental database, carnivores, we don't have a continental database for carnivores, because they are difficult to count. But we are investing in this for the reasons I said. You can only manage better what you know. If you don't know how many lions you have, how many cheetahs, then how will you measure even how you're performing? Then I want to request, and given the mandate that you'll see, to develop specific mobile phone data collection apps that link to the National Wildlife Data Portal. I think the technology at EarthRanger, how can we are hosting this conference, and just thinking aloud, you saw that network, open systems. Without technology, that you cannot have enough men to monitor wildlife. So how can we develop apps that connect now to the data portal, one for science and the other one for management, rapid response, security, human conflict. But the science one is long-term, because I need to monitor how was the situation this year, how will it be next year, and how was it in the past 5 years. And you display this map to the policymakers, some decision can be made to secure areas for them. And then training and capacity development in software and databases. And we want to then organize the first National Wildlife Conference in 2023. And again, I'll be calling for partnership so that we can share information with the legislators, other sectors. Sometimes we speak to ourselves in conservation, not knowing people from agriculture, water, infrastructure. When they listen to our data and they see the way elephants move, they will be amazed. And we ask them, next time you are constructing, please come to the institute to tell you where the corridors are before you design. Sometimes we wait until the design is done and they have invested, then we see a superhighway is coming up, then you go, oh no, this is an elephant corridor. It doesn't work for governments that way. So how can we talk to them well in advance so that we share this information? And I think the proposed wildlife conference will try to bring all these other sectors so that they listen to various findings and the work that has been going on, some for very many years in this country. Thank you so much. And once again, welcome, and I look forward to partnering with you post this conference. Asante sana.